DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health. At Merck Animal Health, we're shaping the future of animal health with pioneering science, connected technology, and insights-driven solutions to bring our customers an unparalleled portfolio of choices to improve cattle care and operational efficiency. We support you and your legacy by helping you meet the challenges of today with the innovations of tomorrow.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We're glad you joined us. We're going to have a great show. We're going to talk about the new animal disease traceability rules and platforms that are coming forward. We have Garrett Girk from the Kansas Department of Agriculture here with us today. Stay tuned. You're going to learn a lot. Thanks for watching DocTalk.
They're here, they're hungry, and they can't be stopped with ivermectin. Choose Safeguard when you deworm your cattle to take out resistant parasites like brown stomach worm, Cooperia, Nematodiris, and others. With Safeguard's efficacy, you can kill more resistant worms in your cattle, so you don't leave potential on the table. Consult your veterinarian for the diagnosis and treatment of parasitism, then bite back at safeguardworks.com.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson and I am here with Garrett Girk. Garrett is the Animal Disease Traceability Coordinator.
Yep, got it
for
right.
the Kansas Department of Agriculture, and doing great things. Appreciate your service and all that you're doing for the state.
Well, thank you. And yeah, that's a mouthful of a title there. So yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
We just say ADT?
That works for me.
All right, perfect. Now, we're going to talk about disease traceability. And so maybe let's just kind of jump into an introduction, or, you know, what's all this about and why do we have it?
Animal disease traceability is knowing where diseased and at-risk animals are, where they've been, and when they were at those locations. It's important to know that when we talk about animal disease traceability, it really encompasses all sorts of livestock species. I know we'll focus for sure here on the cattle and beef, is that's really what we're looking at. Really, animal disease traceability started back in the 2000s with the Cow That Stole Christmas. Is how this kind of really started happening, and that happened when a mad cow disease was detected in Washington State at a slaughter facility. It happened to be a Canadian animal, but the problem there was we couldn't prove it. And if we can't prove it, those export markets would kind of get shut down a little bit. So that started USDA on this process of the National Animal Identification System, or the NACE days. That didn't really go well. I think USDA, and I think everybody knows that, and so they kind of abandoned ship there and went back out to producers asking for input, and really came back to the table with the 2013 Animal Disease Traceability Rule, or ADT, as we've talked about here. And so with that rule, it really sets standards for animal identification for covered classes of livestock, namely cattle and bison, sexually intact, 18 months of age and older, all dairy cattle regardless of age, breed, and sex, and then cattle used for rodeo and exhibition purposes. And those animals crossing state lines are required to have that official identification. Again, that goes back to the 2013 rule. The second part of that is for those for any animal crossing state lines to have documentation as part of that.
Right. So I can still remember where I was standing the night I was working with cactus feeders at that time, and I was in my in-laws' kitchen in Minnesota when the Cow That Stole Christmas hit, and I made a quick trip back to Amarillo. But as we see this evolving and we see this, it's really there to protect our assets and protect our export markets, correct?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right there. And really, again, animal disease traceability is to help determine where the disease kind of started, and making sure that disease isn't spreading out of control. And we'll talk a little bit about that, I'm sure, later, as to really what the vulnerability is for the U.S. and as we sit here in Kansas, what that real vulnerability is for Kansas as well.
When we have that, you know, the vulnerability is there, but it also assures our trade partners that we got our arms around it, right?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And so being able to provide that information back to trading partners to know we know where the disease is, or more importantly, we know where the disease isn't. USDA Foreign Ag Services estimates that this year the beef export market's about $10.6 billion this year.
Yeah. And then as we watched in 2003, it took us, 7 years to regain that export market status.
Yep.
After that one incident.
Yep.
So this is some important stuff, folks, and there's some changes coming. that Garrett's going to update us. Great background information. We're going to take a moment here. We're going to have a break. When we come back, more with Garrett Girk. Thanks for watching DocTalk.
Hi, my name is Dr. Kirk Ramsey with Neogen. Today on Cattle Intel, our focus is going to be foot health. So foot health is critical for all cattle operations. You should constantly be watching for lameness and address any problems as early as you can. So when evaluating feet, start with conformation. Pay attention to uneven or excessive length, twisting, or even curling of one or both claws. It's important to look at the space between the toes. Any redness or swelling can be a sign of foot rot or interdigital dermatitis. If claws are too long or uneven, get them trimmed as soon as possible to correct any problems before it's too late. This is important for the whole herd, but it should be addressed quickly, especially in bulls prior to the breeding season. Dairy cattle, or cattle that spend a lot of their time on hard surfaces, are at a greater risk of early breakdown and should be evaluated and trimmed 2 to 3 times a year. Also, cattle that spend more time on irrigated pasture or excessively wet environments are at a greater risk of foot rot and interdigital dermatitis. Visit with your veterinarian to develop treatment plans and protocols for addressing lameness and feet health in your operation.
Thanks for watching Cattle Intel by Neogen.
Are you a cattle feeder looking to manage for a stronger and more profitable set of cattle? Look no further than Igenity Feeder. Igenity Feeder utilizes DNA to gain insight into your cattle's genomic potential, with the information to predict performance, quality, and economic endpoints for cattle feeders. Animals are scored and ranked in a simple format, driving more precise and accurate management decisions. Igenity Feeder gives you the power to predict days on feed, manage variability within lots, characterize carcass performance, and focus on metrics important to you and your operation. With the data provided, you will identify superior animals earlier and maintain high operational efficiency. Maximize your profit and optimize performance with Igenity Feeder.
I'm Jeremy McBride. I manage the ranch for Wilmoths here in Southwest Missouri. Probably the biggest challenges in Southwest Missouri is the weather. That's where the Ferropeas has helped us. The last day we got through weaning, it was 65 degrees and sunshine, and the very next day it dropped to 35 degrees and rained 2.5 inches, which is very, very hard on these cattle. And we doctored 2 head.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson. We're here in Manhattan, Kansas with Garrett Girk. And Garrett is the Animal Disease Traceability Coordinator at the Kansas Department of Agriculture, doing great work for the whole state of Kansas and beyond. And as we talk about animal disease traceability, there's, as we mentioned, we've started some things and had some things not go so well, and then it's kicked back to the states. And so now, let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges of really getting this thing rolling.
Yeah, so I think we all know that the system's not perfect, and we know that, and we're always trying to make it that much better. Some of the challenges we see, and I brought a tag here, is the metal tags that we work with on a daily basis. When we're working cattle, we know that that environment's not always a calm environment. It's not always quiet, and sometimes B's and D's and 2s and 7s can be wrote similar, can be said similar, and if an animal is wrote down wrong, or that tag's wrote down wrong, one number or one little letter, we're chasing a whole nother animal, and the potential of that disease continuing to spread is there. And so we see those data entry errors happen. There's been some estimates that roughly 10 to 12% of any official ID read via a metal tag will have an error in it, and we know that that's not accurate, and that's what we really want to go towards.
Yeah, well, if you're writing down that many numbers and letters and things, bound to have some issues.
Yep, and really, this is a visual only tag, and as we can imagine, cattle get mud on it, or get feces on it, or whatever that may be, and having to scrub it off and trying to read it, that can be quite challenging. Lose it, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's some cost also, right?
Yeah, so there is some cost, and we know that that's something that producers are really concerned about, and we hear you, and we want to try and work the best we can to limit that cost. But as we talked about earlier, that export market, that's a bigger cost to the industry, and so the best we can to limit that cost of what the system may be, the better off we'll all be.
Yeah, yeah, and I keep saying, as expensive as these animals are today, and the price that we're getting paid for hamburger and beef and producing, these insurances to make sure we don't have a black swan event is pretty minimal.
Yep.
And we everybody can come down on different sides of the traceability and big government and things to that nature, but at the end of the day, we got to have an intact industry.
Absolutely.
And so I see everything. I see all the sides. We're just here trying to do the job and try to let everybody know that there's new regs coming, and this is the guy to explain them to us. But there's also some lot of movements of cattle, around the country. Yeah,
there is. At the beginning of the year, USDA estimates there's about 87.2 million head of beef animals on U.S. farms. I had a colleague that was at the FBI Ag Threat Symposium up in Lincoln, Nebraska, and one of the statistics that was shared there was the Midwest as a whole accounts for about the 5th largest economy in the world. And when we look at that, how much of the Midwest is tied directly to production agriculture, and we know that's a large percentage, especially here in the state of Kansas. One of the other things is looking at the state of Kansas in a 72-hour period, and this is just data I pulled just before we came down here, was September 16th through September 18th of 2024. The state of Kansas imported into from other states, but from 31 different states. So we imported from 31 different states on 339 movement documents. The number of animals, we had 37,000 beef animals, we had 10,000 swine, 4,500 dairy animals, sheep and goats were in the 70s, equine 75, cervid was in the 9s. And so you see all this import into the state, and we think if that disease got there, man, that's a big challenge to know. And something to also realize that doesn't account for forward movements. It doesn't account for movements that are passed through. So whether they be movements from Oklahoma to Nebraska or Missouri to Colorado, those we don't see. We also don't see movements that are moved directly to an improved livestock market or to a slaughter as well.
Perfect. A lot of knowledge there, a lot of information. When we come back, we'll be talking about some of the new rules and opportunities with Garrett Girk.
Founded by farmers, for farmers, United Patriot Coin stands with you. Diversify your financial portfolio with precious metals, a smart investment for uncertain times. You've worked too hard not to protect your assets. United Patriot Coin, precious metals for a secure future.
When it comes to treating BRD, you want a product that you can count on to get the job done at an affordable price. Macrocin by Bimeda delivers on both. A straight shooting, no BS tulathromycin that does what it's supposed to do. End of story. You don't need to take our word for it though. Go to macrocin.com for customer testimonials and head-to-head trial results. For your cattle and your bottom line, choose Macrocin.
In the livestock industry, castration is a common practice to ensure proper herd management. All methods are painful, regardless of the age of the animal. At Solvit, we could not ignore the clear industry need for better castration solutions. So we developed Lidoband, a novel lidocaine-impregnated elastrator, addressing the pain associated with band castration. It provides local anesthesia throughout the castration process. Lidoband, a small device that can make a big difference.
Ranchers, looking to elevate your pasture management game? Turn to Heinen Brothers for expert aerial application. With state-of-the-art equipment and seasoned pilots, we deliver precision treatments right to your fields. From fertilizers to herbicides, Heinen Brothers has your pasture covered. Visit HeinenBrosAg.com to learn more.
When the ones who have your heart need your help, count on us for everything they deserve, delivered fast. We'll work hard for you so you can work hard for your dreams.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Garrett Girk. We're at Kansas State University, and Garrett has a big job. He is the Kansas Department of Agriculture's Animal Disease Traceability Coordinator, and wealth of information. He's engaged in the industry. We're glad to have him. And, let's talk about some of the advancements in tags and equipment and things in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about tags, we have a couple different advancements. So one of the first ones is we have the EID tag, and that's what this new rule is really trying to get us at, is being able to digitally scan that with a reader into a computer system or into a database, and not have those errors we talked about earlier. We know that that's a great improvement in technology. There's even more technology out there that's happening. So there's companies out there that are looking at facial recognition as a form of official identification. That's a long ways off, and we're a long ways, but that's stuff that people are working on. There's different looks at muzzle prints and all sorts of different biometrics that people are trying to look at. Not saying that's where we're at now, and not saying that that's going to happen anytime soon, but that's where it's at.
A pig will chew that out.
Yep. Yeah.
It'd be really tough to put those in pigs.
Yeah. No, and you're absolutely right. And we see that. We see there's challenges to it. And as we talked about earlier, the system's not perfect, but we have to make it a little better today than it was yesterday, and we'll all be better off in the long run. It's not part of this ADT rule, but one of the other things states are really trying to push is the use of electronic certificates of veterinary inspection.
Oh, yeah.
We see that the enhancements of those provide states almost real-time traceability, as those can be printed off from the vet clinic or from the truck, given to the producer, given to the truck driver, and then electronically submitted to us at the state for almost real-time traceability. And we see that being very beneficial, as historically those paper records had been mailed into us, weeks at a time, and sometimes those are hard to read, and that's again going back to those entry errors, can be quite challenging. But again, that's not part of this rule, but for folks to know that there's a lot of states that are trying to move in that direction and trying to encourage veterinarians to use those electronic forms.
Yeah, and I think as we get some of us more experienced veterinarians to retire, and some of the more technologically savvy veterinarians moving into the ranks, probably going to have a lot more transition. But some of us still want our magazine in our hand and our piece of paper with a pen.
Yeah, no, and you're exactly right. And it's a challenge that we face every day at the office. And, I have a great team there at the office that is doing a lot of the work for me, and really kind of on the ground level with them. And so, yeah, we see that, in the state of Kansas anyways. Again, I can only speak to Kansas' perspective, but we see about 96% electronic CVIs.
Wow. So what you're saying is all of this is, as technology advances, it's making your job easier. It's making traceability of the animals better. And that's really what the new rule is all about, right?
That's exactly right. And we see that form of electronic identification and electronic records has really helped us in different success stories. One of the stories I really like telling is we as state animal health officials sometimes work and talk about traceability in the big one, the big FMD. We're always concerned about that, as we probably should be, but traceability is more than just FMD. Yeah. We work on it with trichomoniasis or TB or brucellosis or different things. And so we've had very good success stories with that as well.
Perfect. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to jump into the new ADT rule. And you're watching DocTalk. Thanks for joining us.
Success in the cattle business hinges on a lot of different people playing their part. From the vet to the cowboy and the nutritionist to the feed truck driver, you rely on them to get their job done right, and so do your cattle. Your expectations for the vaccines you use should be no different. Bimeta's cattle vaccines were developed and are made and sold by men and women in the cattle business. No smoke and mirrors, just real-world protection that you can rely on. Go to bimetabiologicals.com to learn more.
Hey, I'm Clark Victory. I grew up right here on this little ranch near Chelsea, Oklahoma. Roped and ranched all my life. A few years ago, I had an injury that created what they call a frozen shoulder. And after speaking with the surgeon in Tulsa, he told me that he could make my shoulder better if he did surgery, but he absolutely couldn't fix it. And I called Kansas Regenerative Medical Center. I did the stem cell replacement. By 12:30, my wife and I had lunch and was driving back to Chelsea. We work around here. Some days we work pretty hard around here, and my right shoulder doesn't get sore. It's like a baby's arm.
When you spot BRD in your cattle, that's your golden opportunity to target infection and its associated fever with a single dose of Resflor Gold, the industry standard dual therapy. To learn more, talk to your Merck Animal Health rep or your vet and see label at resflorgold.com. Animals intended for human consumption must not be slaughtered within 38 days of treatment. This product is not approved for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows.
Hey folks, for your firearm and ammo needs, for gun safes and much, much more, and to have it personalized, come visit us at United Patriot Supply outside of Seneca, Kansas. You can also visit us online at unitedpatriotsupply.com. Be sure to say that Dr. Dan and DocTalk sent you, and we'll see you down the road.
One animal has this huge impact on your operation.
BVDV is one of the most costly bovine diseases, with losses of $15 to $88 per head.
The virus will actually cross the placenta and get into the fetus. As it's developing, its immune system will recognize that virus as it's supposed to be here. And so then that's where our persistently infected animals come from. They're going to shed that virus their entire life, and then it's going to impact your operation.
It is important to work with your local veterinarian and partner with IDEXX for the best solution for your operation.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson. I'm here with Garrett Girk, Animal Disease Traceability Coordinator, Kansas Department of Agriculture. And there are some new animal disease traceability rules coming in November.
Yeah, relatively soon here.
Very soon.
Yeah.
So kind of walk us through what the big rocks are.
Yeah, so a little bit of background. So the USDA put for publication for comment into the Federal Register the Animal Disease Traceability Rule in January of 2023. It was received over 1,000 comments, and that comment period ended in April of 2023. The rule was a final rule published into the Register in May of 2024, and it becomes effective here, just within days, really, November 5th of 2024.
Yeah, day before the election.
Yep.
So tell us what the rule is all about.
I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there, and kind of want to address some of these pretty head on. So first off, it's not a new rule. As we talked about earlier, this rule's been on the books since 2013, and it's not new. It's an amendment to the rule. We'll grant you that, but this isn't a new rule. It's one that's been on the books, and what it really looks at, and really the only thing that changes is changing that type of tag from that metal tag we talked about earlier to those electronic tags. And then it only applies again to those same classes of cattle, cattle and bison. So 18 months of age and older, sexually intact, all dairy cattle regardless of age, breed, and sex, and then cattle and bison used for rodeo and exhibition purposes, crossing state lines. So if you never leave the state, there's not necessarily a reason to have that. With that being said, I know there's some confusion right now too. Calf foot vaccination, those are official tags as required, and so those will also have to be official EID tags.
Okay, so calf hood tags are moving to EID, so bangs.
Yep.
And then interstate movement is moving to EID.
Correct.
So the thing is that this, I think it's really important that you said this isn't a new rule.
Yeah.
It's just putting a different kind of tag in their ear.
Yeah.
For the same exact rule and same traceability.
No, absolutely, and it can't be said any better.
So will the tags come through the veterinarians then, or how does that work?
Yep, great question there. So a couple different ways producers could be able to get those. The first is to go to their veterinarian, as they may have a supply of those tags. Otherwise, you can obtain those through a local manufacturer or distributor.
Okay, and they have to be the 840?
To be an official tag, they would have to start 840, which does signify that that animal was born within the United States.
Okay, so, and then they'll accompany the electronic health papers.
Yep.
And so everything gets a little more streamlined and a little less fat finger issues.
No, absolutely, and that's really the goal, is to increase that accuracy of those records and increase the speed of that. And you know, there's a lot of misconceptions about those EID tags, and the first one is that you can fly a drone over and see those, and that's not true. We don't. You can't do that. They have to be read at 6 inches apart. The other information that's kind of out there is that tag has information that's stored on it, and the only thing that tag will tell you is that number on the outside is the only thing that is tied to that tag.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for all you're doing for Kansas, for animal ag, and beyond. We're proud of you and thankful. Folks, thanks for watching DocTalk. Remember, if you want to know more about what we do, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. Always work with your local veterinarian. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson here with Garrett Girk. We're in Manhattan, Kansas, and we'll see you down the road.
At Merck Animal Health, we support you and your legacy by helping you meet the challenges of today with the innovations of tomorrow.